Hi everyone, and welcome to Get Indie Gaming and to the April edition of our monthly video series where we delve into Kickstarter to pick out and showcase the top best 5 looking games on the crowdfunding platform. However, before we peer into this month's indie game selection, let's take a few moments to review how the games featured in last month's episode fared against their funding goals. Last month's number 5, Little Hawk, received a little over $16,000 versus their $15,000 target. This one will hit the market later this year via Steam, the PlayStation 4 and the X1. Next up we had Mages of Australia, which sailed past its funding target of $25,000 Canadian dollars, ending the fundraising campaign having pulled in over $234,000. That's an overfunding total of 930%, which in turn unlocked all 10 of the team's stretch goals. Mages of Australia should be out later this year on PC and consoles. March's number 3, Pato Box, a title I honestly thought might fall short of its targets, received a smidgen over the 210,000 Mexican dollars versus their target of 200,000. Congratulations to the team, this one's coming to the PC again towards the end of the year. All Walls Must Fall, the tech-noir tactics game set in Berlin at a time where the Cold War never ended, was back to the tune of over €36,000, well over double the team's funding target. This comes to the market in September this year. And finally we have last month's number 1, the massively ambitious looking Pine, which took in over €121,000 versus a $100,000 target. This opened an additional stretch goal of an arena combat option, and while this isn't scheduled to come out until late 2018, Pine is certainly something worth keeping an eye on. So with last month's review complete, and with all of them being successfully funded, let's get straight into the top 5 best looking indie games on Kickstarter for April.
I woke up one day and realized that Oxida had gone mad. There was nothing left to do. And now I keep asking myself, can it get any worse?
Seeking €10,000 at April's number 5, we have The Man Came Around, a political fable survival game set in a time of crisis about moral dilemmas, hardships, and the failure of democracy. With a demo freely available to play, it's fair to say the game is somewhat on the bleak side of things. You control 5 distinct characters fleeing their totalitarian home country by way of a fence in the mountains. You have to manage their scarce resources, keep their trauma to a minimum, and as the game features permadeath, a fallen friend is sadly gone for good. With a compelling narrative, distinctive art style, and a powerful score, The Man Came Around looks set to be a dark, fascinating offering that's scheduled for late 2018. Next up we have Eagle Island, a Super Nintendo classic-inspired side-scrolling platformer that mixes old-school gameplay from the likes of Yoshi's Island and Super Metroid with modern stylings from games such as Rogue Legacy. You play as Quill together with Koji his owl in a quest to save Quill's brother from the clutches of an evil giant eagle. The game will offer 9 procedurally generated environments to explore, each with their own platforming challenges, magic totems, random power-ups, and of course the traditional end-of-level boss to defeat. I'm not usually drawn to pixel art games, although in this case, the 16-bit inspired graphics gleam with colour and charm. From a pure gaming perspective, the interaction between Quill and the owl also has a certain attraction to it, whereby the two can work together to take out enemies and progress within the game with a variety of different attacks and combos. Seeking £20,000, that's about $26,000, to help push the game through to its completion, the title is being developed for the PC with a launch timeline of the summer of 2018. Finding its way into the number 3 slot, Rise of the King is a third-person action-adventure game with survival elements that's looking to raise a hefty $160,000. You play as Grayson Wallace, an expert hunter, woodsman and tracker given the responsibility to investigate the disappearance of a missing boy. To do so, players will need to use what appears to be a unique blend of survival and investigation mechanics to examine the environment for clues, interact with objects, and also interview people to help advance the story. The game offers no quest log, mini-map, and players will need to refer to a journal to keep them on the right path. When it comes to combat, there are no potions, power-ups, or special abilities to help you. Players will need to learn how and when to strike, dodge, and counter, while at the same time keeping a close eye upon their stamina. Expected to ship towards mid to late 2018, it will be interesting to see what the wider fantasy gaming community make of this. It certainly has potential, and here's wishing the team every success. Slotting its way into the number 2 position for April, we find The Watchmaker, a puzzle adventurer coming to the PC and, depending upon the success of the Kickstarter campaign, to the PlayStation 4 and X1. The main character is Alexander, a keeper of the clock tower in which the game is set. One day he realises that his precious clock has been sabotaged, which in turn is causing changes and alterations to the standard progression of time. In an interesting twist to the gameplay, Alexander's health is indicated by his age, and the entire aging process is elaborately animated and reflected in the character's face, posture, and movements. To combat the aging process and avoid the ultimate end that old age brings, players must guide Alexander through the clock tower, encountering puzzles, platforming, and boss fights along the way. Seeking $60,000 to fund a PC version with stretch goals of $50,000 and $70,000 for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox versions. All things going well, this title should launch towards the end of the year. Taking the number 1 slot for April, we have Safehouse from Labs Games. Here we're looking at a strategy sim that seems to take elements of The Sims with political aspects of titles such as Papers, Please. Players find themselves within a fictional African nation of Kazatier and are tasked with the day-to-day management and running of a CIA safe house. Gameplay-wise, players will need to complete daily tasks whilst also advancing through standalone story missions. By doing so, players will earn cash upgrades to benefit and increase the size of their safe house, adding additional rooms such as medical bases and code-cracking enigma rooms. Aesthetically, Safehouse drips with style, and from the lighting and shadowy interiors, it firmly reminds me of scenes from a John le Carré novel. Visuals aside, the gameplay promises plenty of opportunities for the player to undertake numerous and varied assignments, which the developer promises how you play will not only just affect the chance of success, but also the political landscape of the game as a whole. Seeking a modest 5,000 Canadian dollars, Safehouse is hoped to ship in November of this year, and it's certainly a game I'll be picking up on its launch day. With Safehouse leading the pack for April, that just about wraps things up for today's Indie Kickstarter showcase. I'll be back once again as we move into May with more indie game videos, such as an overview of the best looking titles out over the month, a look into a handful of games you might have missed when they first came out, and of course the May edition of this Kickstarter series. As always, if you've liked the video, it would be wonderful if you could click the thumbs up button, and if you have yet to do so, why not subscribe to the channel? By doing that, you can stay up to date with the best looking indie games coming your way. So then, until next time, please stay safe and come back soon for more videos.